Horror game Outlast, released in 2013, became quickly one of the most talked about and big horror titles of its generation. And now, a few years later, we now have the sequel in Outlast 2. But does this game end up truly outlasting the competition, or is it just a bloody mess? Outlast 2 thrust you right back into a very horrific and intense horror stealth experience. In Outlast 2, you're controlling a character named Blake who, along with his wife Lynn, are investigating a mysterious murder of a Jane Doe who was found pregnant and abandoned in the Arizona desert. Lynn is an investigative reporter and you are the cameraman, so once again you'll have the camera that will end up being pretty much your biggest tool as far as being able to survive. After the introduction in a helicopter where it ends up crashing, Lynn is missing after the crash, you set off and slowly the events start to unfold. Of course, I don't want to spoil too much about the story, but it does involve quite a bit of religious imagery and discussion, so that's something that you're not really a fan of, you're probably not going to enjoy it. There's also plenty of gore and really dark themes and scenes throughout the course of the game, which I absolutely loved. Your main goal in Outlast 2 is just to survive, find your wife, and try to escape this evil religious cult compound that you have found yourself at. There's a lot of insane characters that you're going to meet throughout the course of it, and there's a lot of gruesome deaths that are probably going to be coming your way as you try to make it through. The game is all about stealth though. There is no combat, just like with the original Outlast. You're armed with really just your camera, which allows you to record and document some of the stuff that's going on, but more importantly will allow you with night vision to see in the dark. You have to manage the battery life of the camera, as well as being able to find some bandages scattered throughout in order to heal yourself up, but other than that, you don't have anything to help you out. Outlast 2 features 4 different difficulties, and of course this will increase not only the amount of damage you take from enemies, most of which on the harder difficulties will kill you in a single hit, but also of course limit the amount of items you end up finding. So because you're not going to be able to blast your way through or bash the enemies, you always have to be on the lookout for hiding spots and locations and trying to outsmart the enemies. There's a lot of times in the game where you could run and hide into the nearest barrel, or you can try to trick the enemy and then quickly run past them and jump through a window in order to try to get to the next area. The game does have a decent amount of checkpoints throughout the course of it, so you don't have to go usually too far progress before it ends up getting that autosave going, so that if you end up dying, you won't be set back too far. Thankfully also, the load times getting right back into the action once you die are extremely quick. There is barely a downtime in the game. Very few areas are safe for you to actually kind of get your bearings and look around. Most of the time there's still that intense feeling that something could end up sneaking up behind you at any moment and end up killing you. The AI, for the most part, as far as the enemies are concerned, are a bit hit or miss, though, in my opinion. I found sometimes they were able to easily spot me, even when I thought there was no way they could possibly be able to tell where I was, and then other times I was able to sneak up right behind them and just follow them as they walked, or be in plain sight of them, and somehow they still were unable to see me. Just like with the previous Outlast games, Outlast 2 does a great job at building up the stress and the tension. If you're someone who can get into a game and being worried about what's around the next corner, or when you're quickly trying to run away from an enemy if the heartbeat gets going, this is the kind of game that will absolutely bring that to the limit. The game also does a good job in the visual department. It won't necessarily blow you away, but there are some nice touches with the lighting as well as the gore that you'll be seeing throughout, and there is some decent sound design as far as the overall sound effects, as well as building up that tension with the music when you're trying to run away from the enemies. From the technical side of things though, the game did run smoothly. I didn't run into major glitching, crashing, or slowdown of any sort. Outlast 2 is available now on the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and Steam for $29.99. And if you're someone who's more into getting physical copies, there's also a collection known as Outlast Trinity now available for $39.99 that has Outlast 2, Outlast 1, and Outlast Whistleblower. If you're on the PlayStation 4 though, the game does feature a full trophy list including a Platinum, which is thankfully a step up from the original Outlast on PS4. Outlast 2 continues what Outlast started, with the stealthy, helpless feeling, running and hiding from enemies style of horror game that has become pretty popular, but Outlast is one of, if not the best, that's able to do so. The game isn't necessarily extremely long, though this one is a bit longer than the original, taking me about 4.5 to 5 hours on my initial playthrough. Overall, if you enjoyed the original Outlast and you like the stealthy style of horror games, you're going to really enjoy this one, that is for sure. With everything said, I'm going to be giving Outlast 2 an 8 out of 10. But anyway guys, it's going to wrap up this review. I'd like to thank you for watching, and of course, I hope you enjoyed.